Now, Wateraid is calling on the next UK government to prioritise overseas investment in clean water and address the global water crisis. A new study found that nearly 1 in 10 people don't have clean water close to home, while 1 in 5 don't have a toilet of their own. Well, here with me now to get more on this is Wateraid's Chief Executive, Tim Wainwright. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for coming in. And I think for most people, they'll say it's common sense that people need access to clean water. But spell it out to us. Why is water so important? And it's not just for drinking, it's for so many other areas of life as well, isn't it?
You're quite right. And I wouldn't want to give the impression that no progress has been made. So over 2 billion people have gained access to water over the last couple of decades. It's just that there are still over 700 million people who don't have access. That's about 1 in 10, as you just said. And the consequences of that are awful. So it's impossible to live a healthy life, kind of obvious. Girls are missing school during their periods if they don't have access to toilets, to good hygiene. Wider human development is impossible if we do not have this absolute basic, blue thread that runs through our lives.
There are even worries in hospitals, aren't there, of, not being able to keep control of superbugs if people can't wash their hands properly.
You're quite right. You're quite right. It's one of the most important things to do to combat the growing resistance of antibiotics no longer working. I visited a health clinic in a district called Blah in the country of Mali in West Africa. And I met women who were travelling 2 or 3 hours in a very rural area, so it was the only clinic for a long way around, to deliver their babies. It would tend to be more complex pregnancies, often, cesarean and so on. And, we'd managed to install water, but before we had, it was 300-metre walk for doctors, for midwives, to get water. And that just shouldn't be happening. It just shouldn't be happening in the 21st century.
The backdrop against all of this, though, is a changing climate, which surely makes access even harder than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Water is increasingly scarce in many parts of the world, surely.
Yeah, you're quite right. And there is a danger. I said there's progress had been made, it's true, but there's a danger we could move backwards if we're not careful. So you look at a country like Bangladesh, where you have rising sea levels and the water sources that communities are using, and this is a lot of people, tens of millions of people, it's becoming full of salt, which makes you very ill. So that could affect, that will undermine development that has occurred in that area if we're not careful. So yes, it's very important that we invest in making our supply of water resilient to climate change. And sanitation is very important too, because when you get flooding due to climate change, if sanitation is not well managed, the water supply becomes contaminated, a risk for everybody. So yes. And
I'm sure everyone watching will agree with the need for it, but the cost is another factor, isn't it? And you're calling on the next UK government to make it a priority with overseas aid. But we do know that overseas aid was cut back in 2020 during the COVID crisis. It's not gone back up again yet. Money is really tight. I mean, what hopes do you have that money can be found for what you feel needs to be done?
We think it just has to be, because the problem with investing in other areas such as health and education is if you don't invest in water, then it undermines that investment. So we're calling on the government of, whichever government is the next government, this is our sort of water manifesto, if you like, vote water, commit to 10% of the aid budget going on water, sanitation and hygiene. And actually, we've conducted a poll recently, and the UK public picked this area higher than any other area as the best, most important area to invest our aid budget in, and we agree with them. OK, well, interesting to see what kind of reaction you get. But Tim Wainwright, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us. We appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a look at the weather now.